By the end of this video, you're going to be able to create a website like this, or like any of these, complete with your own custom content, layouts, images, fonts, colors, and way more, all without having to know any code, because we're going to be doing this with the really simple and fun to use Elementor page building plugin. So this really is a no experience required video, and you're going to be pretty impressed with yourself when you start to see what you're creating all on your own, with my step-by-step guidance, of course. This is a completely drag and drop system that allows for limitless customization, so if you see a website out there that you like, you can pretty much use that inspiration and make something very similar yourself in a single afternoon, whether that's for your business or for any other purpose. And with just a few extra clicks, we're going to make sure that every page looks amazing on all of your mobile devices too. And I have included chapter markers below this video in case you ever need to skip to a step, so look for those down in the description. So if you're ready, let's just get started by getting you set up with a free domain name, along with a pretty huge discount on your web hosting that I've worked out with my web host of choice, Bluehost. You just need to use my affiliate link to get that discount and your free domain name. So to get that, just go to wesmcdowell.com/hosting and we can get started. Okay, so when you follow that link, wesmcdowell.com/hosting, you're gonna end up right here. So as you can see, you've got quite a discount, $295 as opposed to $899 a month. And you've got all kinds of great stuff with Bluehost. You've got expert 24/7 support. I hardly need them, but when I do, they're right there. And it's just a really easy way to get your WordPress set up. And you do get that free domain name if you need it. So I'm just gonna click on Get Started. We're gonna get through this pretty quickly. Okay, so now it's time to choose your plan. Basic is just fine as long as you're just creating one website. If you're a web designer creating multiple sites for clients and you want staging servers, then go with one of these. But if you're just a business, all you need is this $295 a month plan. So I'm going to click on Select. Now here's where you can either use a domain you own. So if you already have a .com you want to use, you would just type that in here and it'll walk you through the steps of transferring it. Or if you want a brand new domain, all you need to do is see if the one you want is available. So I would just type in yourmostprofitableWebsite.com and we'll see if that's available. Click on Next. All right, we are in business, it's available. So all you need to do from here is input all of your billing information, choose your account plan. So basically it is cheaper the longer out you go with 36 months, but you can go down to 12 months, that's fine too. Then we have all these extras. So I like to just uncheck all of them. I don't think any of them are that necessary. And I'll click on Turn It Off. This one, Domain Privacy and Protection, is the only one you might consider that's going to keep your name off potentially being on any spam lists, but I've actually not really encountered that. So it's up to you if you want to keep that checked or not. And then enter in your payment information and check right here and then click on Submit. Okay, so when everything goes through, all you have to do is click on Create Your Account. You've already got your domain name here. Now you're just going to create your password, and I'm just going to use the one that they got for me. I'm just gonna take note of it. I'm just gonna do a copy. Then click right here to show that you've read and agreed, and then create account. Now go to login and then type in your password and then log in. Just gonna save it. Okay, now create your website. I'm gonna choose skip this step and I'm gonna keep choosing saying skip this. And then I'm finally gonna choose limitless customization. And they're going to ask you a few things. What type is it? Let's just say, just choose the type of your business. Or, we can actually just click on skip this step. I'm going to do that. Now here's where you want to put in the name of your business or the name of your website. Tagline's not that important. I'm going to skip that and click continue. We actually do not need to pick our theme here because the next step we do is going to take care of that for us. So I'm going to click on skip this step for now. They're installing WordPress. And now we're ready to actually log into WordPress where the fun can begin. So just click right over here. Okay, so we're now inside of our WordPress dashboard. Actually, if we click right here, we're actually in the dashboard where you would be when you log in to WordPress each time. So a few things I want to show you real quick before we get started. So within WordPress, the side panels where you're going to go, this is where most of your options are. So whenever you write a blog post, for instance, you can click on Posts, Add New. Same with pages. But the main thing I actually want to talk about right now is users, because you didn't actually choose a password for WordPress yet. So we're going to go ahead and click on users, all users. Now, when you signed up, it did create a user account for you. So I'm just going to click on edit, and I'm going to go down to the bottom. Then it allows you to put in your first name, your last name, all that stuff. The really important thing though is that it has your email correct and that it has your password. So change it to something you'll remember and then click on update profile. Then whenever you need to log back into your account, you just go to yourwebsitename.com/wp-admin. You're going to put in your username and your password. Okay, so now what we need to do is install the plugin that's going to make this build possible. And while this is an Elementor tutorial, there's actually a different plugin we need to use that's going to install both Elementor and the theme we need to use, as well as it's going to come with a bunch of pre-made page templates that are really, I think, superior to what Elementor themselves put out. So what we need to do is go over to plugins, add new, and I'm going to do a search for starter templates. So again, this is going to bring in Elementor itself as well as a few other elements. So that's why I prefer to use this rather than just importing Elementor itself. So I'm going to click on install now and then on activate. And then in order to get going, we're just going to click on see library. And this is where we get to pick out which template is going to work best for us. So I'm going to click on Elementor. That is the page builder we will be using. So as you can see, there are all of these complete website templates that you can customize like crazy. All the images, colors, fonts, everything is customizable. What you really want to look out for is the overall layout that you like the best, that's going to best serve your content. But keep in mind, even when you choose a layout, you can always add sections, you can delete sections, you can move sections around. So this is unbelievably customizable no matter what you choose. But you will notice right away, there's some that are marked as premium, meaning you have to have the paid version of starter templates to use it. So let's get rid of those right away. I'm going to go up to where it says all, and I'm going to check on free. So that gets rid of all the paid ones. As you can see, there are still a ton of completely free website templates to choose from. So let's go ahead and choose one that's going to be the best all-purpose for our purposes today. And I'm going to go to the one that I usually go with. Believe it or not, it's this first one. It's very simple. And the reason I like this one is because it's really easy to customize. It's not too specific right out of the gate. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Outdoor Adventure. And as you can see, it comes with not only a home page, but about, services, projects, contact. And guess what? You can rename these. This does not have to be your about page. This doesn't have to be services. This could be a portfolio if you want. So again, super customizable. And I'm going to show you how to customize every single element. So let's go ahead and go down to import complete site. And then it's just going to take a few minutes to bring in all the elements. But first we need to choose this. I'll just say intermediate, building a website for myself, and then next, and then skip. And now it's going to start importing it, and I'll be right back as soon as it's done. Okay, so we're all set. I'm just going to click on View Site, and we can get building. Okay, so this is what we get out of the box. But again, all this stuff is completely customizable. We can put in any section we need. We can change around the images, colors, all that good stuff. So the way we edit this, because we can't edit it right now, this is just view mode. We need to go up to the top where it says Edit with Elementor and click that. All right, so here we are inside of Elementor. So this is where all the magic happens. This is where you can start customizing and dragging elements into place, adding sections. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of a brief overview of how Elementor works. So basically, as you can see, it's built by sections. So when we're hovering over this top section, you'll see it's outlined in blue. So what we have here are sections, and within sections, we have columns. Right? So here's one column. If we go down here, here's two columns. And then within columns, we have different elements that make up your content, right? Otherwise known as widgets, which you can find over here. If you go up to this top grid, these are all the widgets you have access to. You can drag, let's just do this for a test. We can drag an image right over here onto the stage. And then if you go over here, you can click and you can actually choose what image that is. I'm going to go ahead and do a Command Z to undo that. And then I'll show you how text works. So if we want to take a heading, we would just drag that over here And then we would go over here to change the text. And then we can also go up to style. We can go to text color. We can make it any color we want to. We can go to typography. We can change the font under family, Arial to Homo. We can just change what that looks like. We can change the size of it. So you drag elements over onto the stage, and then you come back over to the sidebar to edit it. It's really pretty easy, and you're going to get the hang of it really quick, I promise. So I'm just going to do a right click, delete to get rid of that. And with Elementor, there's a few different ways you can go about building. So you could start with a completely blank page and just start adding sections, pre-made blocks, or you can make them from scratch with your, choosing how many columns you want and then just dragging in the elements. But the reason we're doing it this way, the reason I started with starter templates is because this already gives you a great base to work with. And they also provide us with all these really well thought out content blocks, like section blocks, that are very responsive, meaning, let's go ahead and take a look here at, if we go down to responsive mode and we can choose tablet or mobile, it's already thought out to where it looks good on mobile. That's why I like doing it this way, because you don't have to go through all the extra steps. And unless you're a designer who really has a lot of experience doing this is always going to be the better way to go, to trust what designers have already built for you and then just customize that. So it's kind of like design with training wheels, but still super customizable. So, all right, let's go back to our desktop mode and we're going to X out of responsive. So let's actually get started with building our homepage. Now, if you're happy with these fonts, that's totally fine. They're perfectly workable fonts and they're really modern and nice. But if you want to change your fonts, let's say you've been to Google Fonts and you've found the ones you really want to work with, there's a few things you can do. So you could take every instance of every text block, go up to Style, Typography, under Family, and change it. Or here's a shortcut. So if you already know what fonts you want, we can change them all in one kind of step right here. So let's go up to this hamburger icon, these 3 lines, and we'll go to Site Settings and then go down to Typography. Now, this is the step I always like to do first so we don't have to change fonts too many different times. So what this lets you do is it lets you change the typography, meaning the font, the boldness of the font, if it's going to be all uppercase or not, for the body copy, which is, smaller text like this, and then for the headings as well. So H1 would be this top heading, the big heading on a page. Then this is probably an H2 over here. And this is probably an H3, another H2. So anyway, let's go ahead and start customizing all of these. So I'm going to start with body copy. I'm going to go to typography. And one I really like to work with body copy is just called Montserrat. It's really clean, really modern. You can't go wrong with this one. And then let's go down to H1, which is going to be this one. So I'm going to click on typography again. And for this one, let's go with, it's called Bebas New. And then I'm actually going to use that for all the remaining headings. So I'm not going to bore you going through all of them, but I'm just going to, I'll just show you this. And then I'll pick right back up after I've gone all the way through H6, choosing the same font. Okay, and once we're done with that, we're just going to click on Update. Really important to do that, or those changes will not be saved, and you'll have lost all your work. So I'm going to click on Back to Editor. So now let's go ahead and edit this top section, otherwise known as the hero section. So the first thing I want to do is change the background image, and we do that at the section level. So we're going to make sure we've chosen the section by clicking right up here, and we'll go to Style. And then under Background, you see that this is the image they've got. I'm going to click on Choose Image. And what you would probably do here is you would choose your images. You can choose any stock image or any image that you've taken yourself. And you just drag that image file right here and it'll upload it. So, and if you're talking about a full width image, I do like to make those 1900 pixels wide. If you make it too much smaller than that, it's going to look kind of pixelated and not the best. So, but in our case here, I've already actually uploaded all of our images before we started to save time. So I'm just going to go ahead and choose the one that I've picked out here. Nice little colorful shot of ice cream here. So, and you'll notice though, look how bright this is And look how muted and dark this version is. The reason for that is there's a black overlay on top of the image, and that helps text be read sometimes. But in this case, I don't know that we need it. So I'm gonna collapse the background section. I'm gonna go to background overlay, and just so you know, you have a few options here. You can have a color. You know, we've got black here. We could choose a blue. We can slide this around. We can choose anything we want, or we could do a gradient, right? And just choose the colors. We can change the angle of it. I highly recommend being very careful about using gradients. I see people use that a lot, and it does not always look good. So if you're ever stuck and you don't know what to do, I highly recommend just doing black. It's super simple, but in our case, we don't need it. So I'm just gonna click here and click on clear to get rid of it. Now there's a few other things you can do to kind of change this. So let's say we don't like the positioning of the background image. We can go back to background. Position is where we control that. So right now it's set to top center, but let's see what, center would look like. Okay, that didn't change at all. Top left, things like that. Or if you don't like any of the choices, you can always go to custom, and this lets you drag, change it from side to side, but then, it's already full width. So, you got to be careful there, or up and down. So I'm actually just going to go back to center. I think that's going to look fine for us. And now let's talk about customizing our content here. So right away, I don't think we need this top section, or this top text block rather. So I'm going to just right click delete, and I'll do the same with this little divider line. Hard to see at the moment, but it's there. I'm going to delete that. And let's say we want to change this text, which obviously you would want to. So you would just click on it. You'd go over to the sidebar under content, and you just type in whatever you want your headline to be. Something like that. And I think it's a little too small, honestly. So if I go up to style, we go to, here's where you can change the text color if you wanted to. But I think white actually looks pretty good. But under typography, we can change around the sizing. We can make it as big or small as we want to. I think something like that looks pretty good. And in our case, I do want a little bit of separation between the text and the background. And I don't want that dark overlay over the whole thing. But what we can do is add a text shadow. So I'm going to click on this. And I think that's a little strong. So we can actually click on the color, and we can bring the opacity down slightly to where it's not as in your face. We can make it, more blurry or less blurry. We can change around the positioning of it. So to me, something like that looks pretty good. All right, so what if we wanted some kind of a subheadline underneath this that gives a little bit more context? We would just go back to our widgets by going to this little grid icon here. And then I'm going to drag a text editor right underneath our headline. And then you would change whatever that text says right here. But what I really want to do is change the style up a little bit. So I'm going to go to style, text color. I'm going to make that white also. And I don't know if you can see, but it's pretty hard to read. So I think we need to make it bigger, and I think we need to make it slightly bolder too. So I'm going to go to first of all, I do want to center it. So under alignment, I'm going to choose center, and then typography. Let's bump up the size to about that. I think that looks good. And then under weight, we can play around. So I think it's maybe at 300. No, I think it was at 400. This particular font has 9 different weights to it. And I think there's a bit too much space between these lines. So the way we fix that is under line height, we can kind of drag that around to be a little tighter. I think that looks better. So let's take a look at what we've got. Let's get a preview going where we don't have to see all these bounding boxes and stuff. So the way we get a true preview is we just collapse the sidebar by clicking right here. And now we can see exactly what we're dealing with. So I've got a few things that I want to fix. I think there's too much space here. I think this text goes too far side to side. I want to tighten this up, and I want to tighten up the space of the wording itself. So let's open this back up. The way we're going to fix the issue of the spacing here is we need to fix the margin on this text block. So I'm going to choose the text right here, and then I'm going to go up to advanced. So here we have margin and we have padding. So padding refers to the space within an element, and margin refers to the space outside of an element. So right here, it looks like we have 20 pixels of padding inside of it. So I'm gonna just zero that out. And that's already better, but I think we need more. So I'm gonna go up to margin and I'm gonna make this smaller. So you'll notice if I do this, all the values are tied together. We don't want that. So I'm gonna get rid of that. I'm just gonna delete it. I'm gonna unlink these values together. That way I can just control what happens on the bottom and not the top. Okay, so right away, I think that is an improvement there. Now let's tighten up the width of this text. The way we do that, and this is really important to know, so you're gonna go up to the section level and then go to layout, and then under content width, it's already set to boxed, which means it's in this box right here, but we can make that box a little bit narrower, which I think is gonna look better. So the way we do that is we just take the slider and we drag it around until we like it. I think something like this looks pretty perfect. Easier on the eye, it's just a nice tighter space. Okay, so now what about our buttons? So first of all, if you want to change the text on the button, you would just click it, and then under content, you would just go under text and you would change it to whatever you want it to say. You can change the size of the button right here. You can choose whatever you want. You can add an icon to the button. There's a lot of different elements you can control here, but I actually just want to change the font inside of it and the color. So we're going to go up to style, and under typography, I'm going to choose our Bebas new font that we've been using. And let's bump up the size. And I think it's a little too bold. So if we want to change that, we go to weight, and I'm going to choose normal. Yeah, I think that looks better. But now what about the color? So if I wanted to change that, also under style, you're just going to go down to background type, and then you can do a classic solid color, you could do a gradient, whatever you want. But I'm just going to leave it on solid, and I'm going to choose our color. So again, you can drag this around till you like what you see. But I actually have a color in mind, so I'm just going to paste that code right in here. And here's a pro tip for you. So when you have a color you know you're going to want to use again, you can save it so you don't have to keep typing it in or fumbling around for it. The way you do it is when it's selected here, just click the plus icon, and then you can choose to name it if you want to, or you can just find it later based on the color itself. And then I'm just going to click on create. That way that color's there anytime I need to use it in the future. All right, so let's take a look at what we've got so far. Looking pretty good. And don't worry, we're gonna be dealing with this header throughout the video, but at the end, I will show you how to actually change everything up here as well. So we're gonna get to it. All right, so I think this looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and go down to our next section. So throughout the course of this video, I am gonna show you a lot of different things, including how to delete a section, how to add a new section, how to move sections around. So let's just go ahead and start with deleting this section, because I really don't think we need it. I don't think it's going to serve the content. So the way we do that couldn't be easier. We just click on the X and it's gone. So now let's talk about adding a new section to replace it. So let's say we wanted to have a 3-column section showing benefits. So the way we would do that is just click on the plus icon where it says add section. And then we're going to go over to this starter templates icon. So these are all the complete pages we have. We don't want that. We just want blocks. So these are all of the pre-made content blocks that come with starter templates, and there are a ton of them. And don't worry, they do look boring because they're all black and white, but what we're looking for is the layout that we like. Because again, we change the colors, we change the images, you name it. So all you need to do is find the layout that's going to best serve that particular section, and they are organized by category as well. Does not mean you have to stick with what category it says. I mean, if it's an about section, this could be used for many other things other than about us. A features section could be more than features. It could be benefits, right? So I'm just going to take a second to find a section that would work perfectly for our content here. So I've decided on this one. I'm just going to go ahead and click on this and then import block. All right. And then I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of this so we can see what we're actually dealing with here. So as you can see, it imported our fonts that we already chose in. So from here, it's just about customizing it for what we need. So right away, I'm going to delete this subheadline, and I'm actually going to delete this as well. I don't think it's necessary. And I'm going to delete one of these columns because I think we only need 3 here. So I'm going to right click on this last column, delete. Okay, so then I would just go through here one by one, changing the text to what we need it to be. Okay, so we've changed the text. Now we need to tackle the images. So I'm just going to click on each image, go up to choose image, and then again, you would drag over whatever image you want to use. I've already got mine here. Click insert. Same with this one. And number 3. But obviously this looks a little off kilter, right? So I'm going to go ahead and do the styling for each of these as well. So I'm going to choose this first one right here, and we're going to align it to the center. And then we'll go up to style. I think I actually want to change the color of the font as well as the font itself. So under text color, I'm going to choose our same chocolate color. And under typography, let's choose something kind of fun here. Let's choose like an accent font. I'm going to go with Pacifico and make sure the weight is normal. And then under description, I'm going to go to style and align it to the center as well. So I think this looks pretty good. And the way we would actually apply these changes to the other column, so you don't have to redo it each time, it's super easy. You're just going to right click on the headline here, copy, go to the next one, paste style, and one more time. Then we'll do the same for this text. I'm going to do copy, paste style again. All right, so let's take a look at what we've got so far. All right, I think that looks pretty nice. Let's go ahead on to our next section. So I do want to show you one thing here. I do think I need to show you how to create a section from scratch, just in case you ever need to do it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on the plus icon, and then rather than going with our starter templates, I'm just going to choose the plus sign right here. So now this lets you do everything from scratch. You start by choosing how many columns you're going to do. We're going to do 2. So I'm going to click that right there. And as you can see, we've got now a 2-column layout, but it's empty. There's nothing in it. So how exactly do we go about adding content to it? So the first thing we need to do is add something to it. So I'm going to go up to our widgets, and I'm going to drag a button right into this. And then I'm going to right-click copy, right-click paste. And I want to go ahead and add a background image to each of these columns. So I'm going to choose the column itself, and I'm going to go up to style and background type classic. So just so you're aware, any section you can give any background to. You can give it a color. So if we wanted to do a color, we would just choose classic, go right here, and then choose whatever color we want, drag this around. We can do a gradient, where you choose both colors. You can do a slideshow, but we're just going to go back to classic, and we're going to get rid of this color, and we're just going to choose an image. So go to choose image, and again, you would drag whatever you want to use over here. I've got this picture picked out, and of course, there's no space here. It's looking pretty bad, but we'll address that in a second. But before we do that, I'm actually going to add the image to our second column. So I'll click that. Again, go up to style, background type classic, and I'll choose this image right here. So the first thing I want to do here to actually make this take up more space is we're going to choose the entire section. We're going to go to layout, and right now, as you can see, it's set to boxed, meaning everything is set to whatever size this box is. I'm actually going to change that to full width, and that stretches it completely from end to end. The next thing we're going to do is I'm going to go to this column, and under advanced, we're going to give this some padding within it to really make it much bigger and give it some more volume. So I'm going to start with unlinking these values so we can operate each one of them independently. So on top, I'm going to give it 300 pixels of padding. And then let's try 30 on the bottom. And then let's do 30 on the left to kind of push it out from the side. I think that looks pretty good. And then you'll notice this is still floating up here because we haven't given the padding to it. So what we need to do is choose this column, and we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to go to advanced. We're going to unlink the values. We're going to do 300 on top. We'll do 30 on bottom, 30 on the left. Cool. Now you're going to notice that these images are kind of off kilter a little bit. So let's go ahead and mess with the sizing of them a bit. So I'm going to start by choosing this column and then going up to style. And under the image, we have, I already showed you before how we can position the image. We'll do that in a minute. But size is what we really want to look at here. So we want to make sure that the image is just big enough to cover the space. So I'm going to choose cover. And then again, position, we could do custom. We could, move it from side to side or top to bottom. But we're not going to do that. We're just going to put it back on default. And then we'll go to this column and do the same thing. We're going to go to Style, and then under Size, choose Cover. Then from there, we just change the text of the button. So let's say we wanted to make this one Find a Store. We just go to Text. And let's say we wanted to make this one something like See Our Flavors. And then from there, of course, we can go up to Style. We can change the text. We can change the color. So I'll go to Typography, and I'll choose our same Beavis New font. Weight Normal. Let's bump up the size a bit to that. And then if we want to apply those changes over here, we just right-click Copy, right-click Paste Style. Cool. And I should tell you too, I didn't address it up top. Whenever you want to change the link for a button, just click on it, go to Content, and then Link, where it has this little hashtag, that is where you would type in the URL or the web address of wherever this is going to link to. Okay, so let's take a look at this so far. I think it looks pretty good, but let's say we wanted a little bit of space between this. We wanted some white space. I'll show you how to do that. It's just a matter of adding in some, margin inside of the column. So let's choose the first column. We'll go back up to Advanced, and we're going to unlink these values. We'll do 10 on top, 10 on bottom. We'll do 5 on the right, 5 on the left. And the reason we're only doing 5 is because this one's also going to get 5. So we wanted to add up to 10. So we'll then come over to this column and we'll do the same exact thing. So Advanced, Margin, Unlink, 10 on top, 5 right, 10 bottom, 5 left. Cool, so let's take a look at what we've got now. Looks pretty good so far. Let's go ahead on to our next section. So we're going to expand this out. And you know what? I don't think we're going to need this section at all. So I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of it. And instead, I'm going to add in a brand new section here. So again, we'll go with the starter templates. We'll just build something that already exists from an existing block. So we'll click Blocks. And I'm just going to try to find something that works here. So I'm going to click on About and see what I find. Yeah, I think something like this will work just fine. So I'm going to click on that and then Import Block. All right, so the first thing we want to do is just change the text here to whatever we want it to be. Something simple like Our Story is fine. And then we'll change this text as well. Now let's customize it. So we're going to choose the headline. We'll go up to Style, Text Color. I'll make it our same chocolate color. And then under Typography, let's change the weight to normal and then make it slightly bigger as well. I think that looks pretty good. And then I want to show you something else that's cool here too. So what we could do is just change the image here, but I actually want to show you a different thing that we could put here. So I'm going to actually right-click Delete, and I'm going to go up to our widgets. I'm going to go to Video. I'm going to drag a video widget right on over here to our stage. So this is a really cool thing. If you have a video you want to use, you can actually embed a YouTube video or a Vimeo video or even a self-hosted video. Don't recommend you do that. That's going to slow your site down. I highly recommend just getting it from YouTube, meaning you would have to upload it there first, and then you would just grab the little URL that they give you and you'd paste it on over here. So let's just make sure we've selected the video, and then you'd go under Link and you would just paste that code right there. And then if you want to get rid of this right here, the Watch on YouTube, you would just go under Player Controls and click on Hide. But let's have a little bit of fun with this background. I do want to show you the kinds of things that are possible. So let's choose the section and we'll go up to Style. And rather than just choosing a background image or a solid color, we're going to do gradient, but we're going to do this with a little bit of a twist. So I'm going to keep our first color white. But then for this color, let's see, I'm going to choose like a nice mint green color. And there's all kinds of things that you can actually customize when it comes to a gradient. The first thing you can customize is the angle of it. So you can make it whatever angle you want it to be. Let's make it about 230. So it's like white up here, then green down here. But see how gradual this is? What if we wanted to make it more of a harsh line? We can do that by messing with the location. So let's set this to 35 and then this also to 35. Now we have a nice hard line there, but we're not done yet. I want to show you something else that's really cool too. So if we collapse background, let's go to background overlay. So we can actually add a photo here that's going to interact with this color. I'll show you what I mean. So let's go to choose image. And I've got this one here of just simple chocolate sprinkles on a white background. I'm going to click on Insert Media. And I know what you're probably thinking. You're like, okay, Wes, well that's just completely covered up what we already have. It has for now, but I'll show you what to do. So what we want to do is go down to blend mode, and we're actually going to choose multiply. So that's going to make it sit on top. So it's basically just going to darken, the dark parts will darken what's underneath it. And I'm just going to make some tweaks here to get it to where we want it to be. So I don't want it to overlap with the text. The first thing I'm going to choose is repeat. I'm going to make sure it doesn't repeat, because right here we have one instance of it. Then again over here, I'm going to do no repeat. I'll keep the size at default, but position, I'm going to set this to custom because I kind of want to move where it is exactly on the page. So let's move it over here so it's kind of peeking out from behind the video. And let's see what looks good here. Maybe something like that. So now let's see what this looks like when we collapse it. So when we scroll, okay, so it's fixed in place. This is what I want to do. This is going to be even cooler. So we go here, and then under attachment, we choose fixed. That's going to keep that in place. So when we scroll, it's going to move, it's going to stay in place, and then that green line in the video will go right on over it. So just wanted to show you what's possible. Now you don't necessarily have to do something like that, but it's nice to know that you've got options. And these are the kinds of customizations that can really make your site feel special. And while we're at it, let's go ahead and add a little bit of a drop shadow to this video to help it stand out more. So I'm going to choose the video, and I have to go to advanced for this. And I'm going to go down to border. And then under box shadow, I'm just going to turn that on. And then we can choose, we can make it kind of come over to the right and down slightly. And that just gives it some nice separation from the background. Okay, time for our next section. Let's open this back up. And we're going to click on the plus icon and go back down to starter templates. Now let's go to blocks, and let's choose a testimonial section now. So I'm going to go up here, and I'm going to choose, testimonials is right here. I just want to choose a layout that's going to best serve our look here. All right, so I'll go with this one right there, and then import block. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and change our text here. I'll get rid of this divider line. I don't think we need it. But if you ever wanted to keep the divider lines, you would just basically mess with the styling here, the size of it, and then styles where you can choose, you can change the color and all that good stuff. But we're not going to mess with that. I'm just going to delete it. Okay, so now let's look at each individual testimonial. So right away, there's these weird little quote things here that I just don't dig that. I don't think it adds anything to it. I'm going to right click, delete on each one of them, just personal preference. And then you would just go through each one. You'd click on it. You would change the text of the actual testimonial here. You would choose the person's image here. So you'd basically choose image. You would drag the person's photo on over onto the stage here and click on insert media. We're not going to bother doing all that though. And then you would change the person's name and title. One cool thing you can actually do with title is replace it with, they want you to put the person's occupation. You could also put something like the city they're in if you're trying to rank for local SEO. You could put web emojis as stars in there, so it looks like a 5-star review. I'll actually show you what I mean here. So I just did a search for web emojis. Just gonna click right there. I'll just do a search for star. I'll just type that right in and then copy. And then right here where it says title, I'm just going to paste that 5 times. And let's go ahead and style this up a little bit. So I'm going to go up to style, then go to name. And under text color, I'm actually going to choose that kind of magenta color that we've had around the site as well. And then under typography, I'm going to choose our Pacifico font and then change weight to normal. And size, let's just size it up a bit. I think that looks pretty good. So to apply that to the rest of them, we just right click copy, right click paste style, and one more time. Now I want to show you another cool thing we can do with the background. This is one we haven't done yet. So let's just choose the whole section and then go up to style. And under background, we're actually going to go over to where it has the little video icon. And this actually lets you put a YouTube video in the background. So the cool thing is too, you don't have to have made this video yourself. There are a ton of just free stock videos to use on YouTube. Just go to YouTube, type in whatever your industry niche is, and then stock video, and see what you can find. So I've got one picked out. I'm going to paste it in right here. Okay, so here it is. There's a few things right away that need fixing, right? So basically, it's way too in your face. So we need to knock it back a bit with an overlay. And we also want to isolate a small clip in this video that we're going to use. We don't need to use the entire video. So what you really want to do is figure out like maybe a 10 to 30 second clip that's going to not be too distracting, but it's going to help sell the idea. So this is done in seconds, by the way, not minutes. So I've identified from second 347 to second 368 in this particular video. So you just have to do a little bit of homework there to figure that out. Okay, so this is what I've got. Now we're gonna knock it back a bit by putting on a dark overlay. So we're gonna collapse background and we're gonna go to background overlay. And I'm just gonna choose classic. We don't wanna do a gradient here. And then under color, I'm going to choose like a really dark brown. And that did a little bit, but I actually want to really make it darker. So what we need to do is under opacity, we're going to crank this up till the video is just kind of barely visible underneath it because we don't want it to be too distracting. Like to me, this looks pretty good, but of course now we have to make this text legible. So we'll click the text, we'll go up to style, text color, simple white, and I think we'll make it bigger as well. So go to typography, crank up the size. That looks pretty good. And then under weight, I'm going to choose normal. All right, looks good to me. Let's move on to our next section. So I'm actually going to get rid of this. I'm going to get rid of both of these. I don't think they're necessary. So I'm going to click on the X. Oh, actually, I think we will keep this section. So I think we can work with this one. So first thing we want to do is let's go ahead and change this headline text. So then I'm going to go up to style, text color. Let's choose our same chocolate color we've been using. Let's go to typography. Let's bump up the size a bit. And then weight normal. And then see how much space there is between these lines. It's just way too much. So I'm going to go to line height and I'm going to tighten that up to where it looks good to my eye. I think that looks pretty nice. I'm going to go ahead and delete this little divider. They love their dividers in here. I'm not sure why that is, but that's a complete personal preference. It's up to you if you want to keep it. And I'm actually going to delete this button as well. So just right click, delete. So now let's go ahead and change these images out. So, because obviously they don't fit with the theme. So let's just go one by one. I'm going to take this one, go to choose image. Now, ideally, whenever you're changing images like that, you'd want them to be roughly the same dimensions or the same, basically this one is a horizontal photo. So you'd probably want to switch it out with another horizontal photo to keep the same layout. So I'm going to go ahead and choose this one, insert, and I'll keep going with the rest of them. Okay, so I changed these out. And one cool thing we can do too is see how they're kind of, they're not lining up. If we change the columns around, like the width of them around, we can drag it to where they're pretty much even. We just have to eyeball it like that. There we go, perfect. And then we can change the background color. So I'll choose the section under style. We'll just go simple this time with a straightforward color. So we'll just click here and then I'll just paste in the color code I want. And then I'm actually gonna save it. So save new global color. I'm not gonna bother naming it this time. I'll just click on create. And then let's say I do want to show you one more thing here. So if you ever want any kind of a border around a photo, or if you want to change the border radius to make these edges more rounded, here's how you do that. Just click on the photo you want to change, and then under style, border radius is where you change that. So let's just say 20 so you can really see the difference. See how rounded, let me just collapse this. So you can see how nice and rounded that is. I don't think that's necessary. I'm going to put it back, but I did want to show you that that is something that's possible. And then under border type, here's where you can add a border to it. So I'm going to do solid, or you could do, double, dotted. You can play around with it. I'm not going to show you all of them, but you can just click around and see what you like. So let's do solid. Let's change the color to white, and then we can change the thickness of it. So let's make this, I'm just going to eyeball it. I think 5 looks pretty good, but let's say I wanted it to be more of kind of a shadow effect rather than a border all around the whole thing. The way I do that is I unlink these values, and then let's just zero out the top and let's zero out the left. So then we get this kind of effect, which I think looks pretty cool here. So then I'm just going to do that for each of the rest of these as well. So I'm going to click each one by one, go to Style, and handle it over here. And since this is kind of a social media centric section, I do want to show you one other widget that's pretty cool, which are the social media buttons. So let's just do a search here. I'm going to type in social. So we have social icons. So I'm going to go ahead and drag that right underneath here. And you've got all kinds of options with these, from whatever social medias you want to actually include to the colors, all that good stuff. So I'm going to start out here by left justifying it. And we can do things like the shape right now, they're rounded squares. We could do just squared off squares where there's no round edges, or we could do circles. I'm actually going to go back to rounded. I think that looks good here. But let's say you don't use Twitter and you wanted to replace that. Well, just click on Twitter and go to icon library, and then you would just replace it with whatever you want. So let's type in Instagram, and now you've got that. And then you would just type in the link to your unique profiles, your Facebook account, your Instagram, your YouTube channel. You would just type that in right here. And then in order to style these, we're going to go up to Style, and you can either choose the official color of each individual social platform. That's what we're looking at here. But I think that never looks quite right on a website, and I think it really invites people clicking off of your website, which ideally you want to keep people there. So I like to be a little more subtle and keep it more branded for the website. So I'm going to click on Custom, and this is going to let you choose your own colors. So let's go to primary color, and let's choose our chocolate color. That's going to be the background. And then the secondary color refers to, the white part here. So you can make that whatever you want to be. Let's just go ahead and choose this, the same pink color we have in the background. But then if we think these are too close together, we can go to spacing. We can kind of space them out. We can increase the padding in them, make the space between the icon and the border. I'm just going to get rid of that, though. I think it looked fine the way it was. But let's say we wanted all this stuff to be centered in the middle here. So the way we do that, this is the column that needs to be centered in the middle. So we'll choose this column, layout, vertical align, middle. Easy as that. So I think we're about done with the home page, but we do have one last very important step, which is actually to do a reality check and make sure this looks good on your mobile devices as well. So again, we're going to go down to responsive mode, and let's go ahead and choose the mobile device here. So what I really like about using those starter templates is they really do a lot of the hard work for you, making sure that it's going to look good on all your devices. It mostly looks good, but let's go ahead and make a few little changes. Like for instance, remember how we manually made this text bigger? Well, now it's way too big for mobile, right? So we're going to choose this text. We'll go to Style, and I'm going to choose Typography. So this is something that's really important to know. Whenever you see this little designation next to something, that means whatever changes we make are only going to be applied to mobile. So if we change the size of this font, it is not going to have changed what we did for the desktop view. But then there are other things like weight, where if you did change it, it would apply across the board. We can mess with line height, letter spacing, size, all that good stuff, and it's going to have no impact whatsoever on what we've already done. So let's play around with it to see what looks good. Like I think that looks fine. I think this text should also be tightened up or made a little bit smaller. So we'll choose that. Again, we'll go to typography, size, something like that. And I do think there's too much spacing between them. So I'm going to make it slightly tighter. I think that looks good. All right, cool. So now you would do the same thing for your tablet. You would just go here and you would make those changes as you see fit there as well. We're not going to go through all of that, but this is going to give you the good broad strokes of what you need to do. So let's go through and make sure everything looks good. That looks good to me. That looks fine. Okay, so here's an instance where we'd probably want to make this smaller. So I'm going to choose that text, typography, and let's just go ahead and make it fit on one line. Perfect. We could make this fit on one line. I actually think it looks fine like that. One thing I'm seeing though is I definitely would want this to be centered with everything else. These are the kind of things you really want to look out for. Just make sure everything looks like it belongs. So if this is all centered, this should be centered too. So I'm going to choose this, and then under content, we'll do alignment, and notice how it has the mobile icon next to it, meaning if we center this on mobile, It's only going to apply there. Now we have all of our images, and I think this page is looking pretty good, and I think we can actually mark it as done so we can move on to our next page. But before we do, we just have to make sure we click on Update to save all of our changes. Now, the way we're going to get to our next page in order to edit that is we have to go down here to the Preview Changes icon, the little eyeball, and now we get this menu where we can go to our next page and then customize that, followed by the following page, and so on. So the important thing to know here is, even if these aren't the pages you need, you can still go to the next one and you can customize it and change the name of it to be whatever it is you need to be. But it is nice that it's all thought out and it's all linked together already. So let's just go ahead and start with About. So once we get here, now we just have to go back up to Edit with Elementor, and we can start all over again here. Okay, so let's just start out with customizing, starting from the top. So I'm just going to choose this text, and I'm going to type in About Us. But again, this could be any page you need it to be. It does not need to be an About Us page. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to choose the background. So choose the section, then go up to Style, and then from here we can either choose a new image, which I'm going to do here, or you could have chosen just a color or a gradient. This really doesn't have to be anything special up here on these interior pages. It's just all about the look you're going for. And the other thing I want to mention too is, what if this is just too much space for you? Because a lot of times you don't want that much vertical space for something like this. So you just choose this section, and the way this is handled is actually under Advanced. It's got a lot of padding on the top and bottom. So if you wanted this to be tighter, let's just say you wanted it to maybe be like 100 on top and 100 on bottom, you can absolutely do that. Just to keep it simple though, I'm going to go back and I'm just going to put it back the way it was. Important thing to know, if you ever need to go back in time and undo stuff, you can go down to this little History tab and you can go back to before you started editing or before it got too far away from you. So let's go ahead and go back to this step right here. All right, so let's go down here. So let's say we want to work with this section. We just want to customize it. I'm just going to go ahead and, you would type in your new text here, then go to Style. I'm going to change it to our chocolate color, and I'll get rid of this divider again. And then I would just change the image by clicking on it, and then I'll choose this one right here. And notice how a lot of these images on this theme come with this weird little shadow behind it. So if you don't like that, just go to Style, and then Box Shadow, just click on this little arrow that says Back to Default, and then that'll get rid of it. And while we're at it, if you notice a thing where it's kind of changing the coloring of your images, there's a reason for that. Some of these starter templates, they put this, what's called a CSS filter on certain photos to give them a look. If it's changing the way it looks and you don't like it, just make sure you're under Style, then CSS filters, then just click on this, and it'll get rid of any of those filters that was on it. So that's kind of a good thing to know. And let's say we wanted to also keep this next section and just customize what it says. We just, again, click on each text element, change the title over here, same over here, and then you just change the text blocks just by clicking on them. Nothing new, we've done it all before. Let's just go ahead and style this a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and delete these dividers and delete that one. And I'm going to make this text a little bigger. I'm going to make it our chocolate color as well. So I'll go to Style and then Text Color. I'll choose the one we want. And under Typography, I'm going to bump up the size to about there. Then I'll right-click Copy, right-click Paste Style to carry it over. And now let's give this a background color. So I'm going to choose the section, go to Style. Now again, we can do Classic, Solid Color, or Image, Gradient, Video, Slideshow. But let's just go Classic here. Let's choose our kind of pale pink color we used on the home page. And since this is an About Us page, let's say we want to have kind of a Meet the Team section about bios of our founding members or something. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on the Starter Templates icon and go to Blocks. And I'm going to go down to Team. I'm going to see what we can find there. Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and use this section right here and then click on Import Block. So let's go down here. We'll just change our text. And we can either change that or we could just delete it if we don't need it. So this gives us space for 4 people. Let's say we only need 3. So what we would do is we would just right click on this column, delete that column, and now we're left with 3. Let's say we needed 6. What would we do? We would just duplicate this. I would just click on this whole little intersection here, duplicate. Now we've got 2 rows. Now, let's say we had 5 people. What would we do there? Let's just go ahead and delete this one, delete that column. So it's very customizable what you can do here. But anyway, just wanted to show you that. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this, and we'll just work with these 3. So first thing I'm going to do is we would choose each one, and we would change the name and the job title if necessary. And then of course we would change their photos as well. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then if we want to change the style of the text, we would just click here, then go to Style, and then we'd go down to Content. That's in regards to the written content. So let's start with the title. Let's change our color to our chocolate color, and our typography. Let's go with our accent font of Pacifico. And let's just make sure it's not bolded. I think that looks bad with this particular font. So let's click on Normal, and then we can size it up if we wanted to. I think that looks pretty good. And if we want to apply that change across the board, we right-click Copy, right-click Paste Style, and one more time. And let's just finish this off by giving this a nice background color. So we'll choose the section, we'll go to Style. Let's just use that kind of mint green color we've been using, and I'm actually going to save it. I forgot to save it last time. So click on the plus, and then that'll save it as a new global color if you click on Create. All right, so let's take a look at this page. From top to bottom, we have an About Us header, we have our mission, we have another little section followed by Meet the Team. So you can really add in any section you want here to best serve your content. That's the point here I'm trying to make. And then once you're happy with it, you would just click on Update. And of course, before we move on, we do need to do that reality check and make sure it looks good on mobile. So we're going to go down to responsive mode, click on our mobile device, and we're just going to go through section by section to make sure it looks how we want it to. So one thing I might do here is I feel like there's just no space between this image and here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to choose this image itself and go to Advanced. And I'm going to give it a bit of a margin on the bottom only. So I'm going to unlink these, and let's see what 30 pixels looks like. Yeah, that looks good to me. This all looks fine. This looks good. All right, so I think, if I'm not mistaken, we're ready to move on to our next page. So let's go ahead and click on, well, first of all, we want to click on Update to make sure everything is accounted for and saved. We'll click on our Preview Changes button down here. Okay, so now let's choose our next page we want to work on, which would be our services page, which we're actually going to turn into something else. Let's say you don't need services, you need a different kind of page. We're actually going to work on that right now. So once you're here, you'll just click again on Edit with Elementor. So seeing as how we're making this ice cream site, I'm actually going to change this to our flavors. But again, this can be whatever you need it to be. This is just one example. So I'm going to choose our whole section. So we go up to Style, and I'm going to choose our new background image, which is this one right here, and then Insert Media. All right, so from here, let's go ahead and change our text to whatever we need. Assuming we want to work with this section, we would just customize it. Again, if you want something different, you would just click on the little plus icon, you'd add a new section. You know how it goes. We've already been doing this. So I'll just change our text here. I'll change the style to our chocolate color. Delete our divider for consistency. So I'm going to get rid of all this other content, and I'll show you what we're going to put here instead. So I'm going to X out of that and this, deleting all of these sections. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to add a new section by just clicking on the plus icon. And I'm just going to choose a simple one column layout. And then I'm going to go to our widgets, and I'm going to search for the gallery widget. So we're going to use basic gallery, and I'm just going to drag that right in here. So this is really helpful to know. Like maybe you do something where you want to show before and afters, or you just basically want to show your work. A gallery is a really good way to do that. So, and of course, right now there's no images in there, so we need to add those. We're just going to go over to where under content and then click on the plus icon. And here we would just drag all images we wanted to put in that gallery onto the stage here. But I've already got a bunch of images here. This is going to be our flavors page for this particular example. So I've got all those, and then I'm going to click on create a new gallery. And then I'll click on insert. Okay, so this is what it looks like out of the box. Now this is going to look different if you have images that don't have a white background on them, right? If you had different kinds of images, like let's go ahead and I just want to show you what it's going to look like. Let's go ahead and add more images to this just so you can see what it would look like normally. Just going to click on all these and click on add to gallery and then insert. So here's what it would really look like. So as you can see, lots of space between these. It doesn't look great, and then no space here. So there's lots of things we can change about this. So first of all, let's change it to 3 columns instead of 4. So now we have 3 columns, and everything's still pretty, nothing looks right, does it? And the reason is, the first reason is, under content, under image size, these are thumbnail size images. So they're really small, meaning there's going to be a lot of space between them here. Let's go ahead and bump this up to medium large and see where that gets us. Okay, so already they're a lot bigger, but now there's no spacing between any of them, which also, depending on what look you're going for, maybe you like this look, but let's go ahead and add a little spacing to it. So we'll go to Style, and under Spacing, let's do Custom. And then you can change it to, whatever you want it to be. I think something like 10 is probably gonna look good. Yeah, so I think that looks pretty good. So for now, let's go ahead and get rid of these extra images. Just gonna click on, and then, by the way, that's what happens when you click on one of these, it opens in a nice light box. So anyway, let's just choose the entire widget here, the gallery widget, and we'll go to content, and we're gonna edit this. We're gonna get rid of each of these other photos, and you'll notice that there's little spaces for captions here. Now these captions can actually show up underneath each photo, which you don't always want that, but in our case, because we're showing off all of our flavors, I think we do want that. So I'm gonna go ahead and take a second and add in some captions here. Okay, so I've added in those captions. And another important thing to note too, you can drag these around in any order you want. So let's say you don't like the order you currently have, you just drag them around to be however you want. And then I'm gonna click on Insert Gallery. And now we have each of the flavors underneath the accompanying image. And of course we can customize that too. So let's go up to Style and then Caption. Let's go to Text Color. Let's make it our chocolate color that we've been using. And then under Typography, we will choose our Bebas New font and we'll bump it up slightly. We could even do something like make the letter spacing a little wider if we wanted to go for that look. So yeah, let's take a look at what we've got. I think that looks pretty nice and complete, but to me, this is actually a little too close to the footer here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna choose this whole section, go to Advanced, and I'm gonna give it some margin on the bottom. So I will unlink the values and I'll give it a 80 margin on the bottom. So let's check that out now. All right, cool, it's looking good to me. Let's go ahead and make sure it looks good on mobile. Go down to responsive mode, click on mobile, and let's collapse this for a true view of what it's really gonna look like. Yeah, so I think it's looking pretty good. If I wanted to just tighten up this spacing, which I think I might want to, I will just go ahead and choose this section, and I'm gonna go up to Advanced, and I'll unlink these values, and on top, I'm just gonna kind of send it into the negative, pulling it up higher to about right there. Let's check that out. Yeah, that looks better to me, less vertical scrolling that way. So I'm happy. Let's go ahead and click on Update, and then on our Preview Changes button again. So we could go into projects and do the same thing over again, but by now you should know how to go on into any of these pages and just create whatever it is you need for your own site. The one thing I do want to show you, however, is contact, because this is going to be a little bit different to make that contact form actually work. So we're going to click on Contact and then on Edit with Elementor. Okay, so this is mostly going to go the same. The only difference is going to be when we get to this contact form down here. So let's just go ahead and get customizing. We can obviously change the text by clicking on it, and then over here, I think contact us is fine in our case. So I'm going to click on edit section to change this background image. So we'll click choose image, and I'm going to go with this one right here, insert. Okay, so now let's go down, and again, we can change all our text. I'm going to just change this to something like that, and then I'll change this. And of course, we'll style it to be consistent. So we'll go to style, we'll change the color, and we'll do a copy, paste style to apply it across the board. And then you would just want to go through each of these and change, the title. You change your address on here. You change your. I would actually recommend getting rid of your email address. I'm going to go ahead and right-click delete. You don't generally want to publish your email address. It's going to lead to lots of spam. Little pro tip for you. Now you've got your socials. So what you could do is just copy this from your homepage, or you can just go ahead and style them the same way. And remember, again, if you want to change any of these or add one, let's go ahead and add Instagram, for instance. And then you just add your link to your Instagram account right here. And then we'll go up to style, and our primary color, let's set that to our chocolate brown. And I actually think the spacing and the padding and all that's fine. Actually, I do want to do something though. Under content, I do want to change it to rounded so it matches what we have on our homepage. Consistency is really important. It just makes everything feel, like a lot of thought has been put into it. And let's say we want to give this section or this column a background. Let's click on the column. We'll go to style, and then under color, we'll go choose our kind of pale pink color here. But then notice how everything's kind of really close to the top. So with this column still selected, we'll go to advanced, and we'll give it some padding all around. Let's give it like 50. Oh, and see, it wasn't linked together. So I'm gonna link it together at 50, and maybe even more. I think that looks pretty good. Okay, so now before we get to the actual making sure that this form works properly, let's go ahead and click on update. And we'll do that reality check to make sure it actually looks good on mobile. So go down to responsive mode, click on mobile. Okay, so we have our form. Let's just go ahead and collapse this. Okay, so we have our form. Okay, so this looks a little wonky in mobile view, right? It's a little too, there's not that padding in it like we had on desktop. So let's go ahead and fix that. Let's choose the column. So I'm going to get rid of this margin that's on top here. Actually, let's add some back in to 30. I think that looks good. And let's link all of our padding values together here. Let's see what 30 looks like in there. Okay, that looks pretty good to me, I think. I'm just going to give it a little bit of margin on the bottom as well. So clicking here under advanced, we have 30 on top already. Let's add 30 on bottom as well. And I think there's a lot of space between the get in touch text and here. So I'm going to click on the form and advanced. And let's see what it looks like with just no padding here. Okay, to me, that already looks quite a bit better. So I'm going to go ahead and click on update, and we'll get out of our responsive mode by clicking close up here. So now we need to make sure that this form actually works. So the way we do that is we have to take care of that inside of the WordPress dashboard, not within Elementor itself. So let's just click on this hamburger icon, and we'll go to exit to dashboard. And then we're going to click on the WordPress icon right here. Okay, so from here, we're going to go down to WP Forms, and here is our contact form. We only have one, so we're just going to click on Edit. Okay, so here's what we've got. We have a your name field, email address, and message. So if you wanted to add more to this, you could. You could add a drop-down question, something that you'd drop that around here. Maybe you wanted it to be like, what's your budget? And then you would have something like under 500, and then maybe 500 to 1,000, and then over 1,000, and then people can click here and choose which budget fits them. I'm just going to put that in the trash now. Or you could do a multiple choice. You could do something like if it says paragraph text, that's something like a message where they can fill in long form content. Or if it's a single line text, that's more of a short answer kind of question. You get it. So let's say we wanted to edit this to first name. And if you want to make anything required, this just has to be checked. If you uncheck it, that's no longer a required field. So then once you have everything actually, all the forms there that you actually need, now we need to go to settings because we need to make sure that this actually works and it actually sends to your email address because it obviously doesn't know how to do that out of the box. So we're going to go under settings to notifications. So let's go through these. So basically, this is the email address it's going to send to. So you would want to put in your email address here, like that. Email subject line. So whatever you want this to say, when you get this email that someone fills out, how do you want that to appear in your inbox? I recommend something like, new website inquiry, so you know what it is. Now the from name, remember how in the form fields, we had the first form, otherwise known as field 0. That was their name. So when they type in their name, it's going to show up in your inbox as, let's say someone named Steve filled out your form and put his name in, Steve. When you're in your email, it's going to say from Steve. And from email, again, this is going to be your email, not theirs. And the reply to email address should be left like this because remember that second field was their email address, otherwise known as field 1. So don't change that, and then keep this as all fields, and then click on save. And you'll definitely want to do a test on this just to make sure that it does send to your email address. That way you're never missing out on anything important. Okay, so we're almost finished. There's just one more step we need to take, and that's customizing your header and footer. So just click right here, and that's going to take you to the next video where we'll very quickly and officially finalize your brand new website with a beautiful and fully functional header and footer. So just click here and we'll wrap this sucker up.